Hello everybody, my name is Cybermanalf, and I am here to review part 2 of Spyfall. Spyfall part 2, the second episode of series 12. Now, the last episode, I was away for a bit over New Year, so I got back and I had to do this really quickly, and it turned out as an alright review. This one's going to be a more structured, less haphazardous review. So, unlike last episode, I do have a few things wrong with this one, so I'm going to start off with the things I liked about the episode and then the things I didn't like so much about the episode. So, overall, this episode was very, very good. The main thing I loved about this episode was Sacha Dhawan's master. His performance was just so amazing, and obviously, the best bit for me was the final 5 minutes, but I'll get onto those in a minute. But Sacha Dhawan's master just comes across as just... There's something about his presence on screen. He steals every single scene he's in. The first time you see this master in the episode is in his TARDIS. Now, I like how his TARDIS looks. It looks really unique. And then the next time we see him, it's back in the past with the Doctor. And I love the fact that he basically chases the Doctor throughout all of history, but in each different location where he finds the Doctor, he's in a completely different outfit. He's in like a period outfit. And the first time he appears in the past is in like this fair where they're showing off all their inventions, and there's just something about the way he comes in as like, now we'll see the amazing shrinking machine just start shrinking people. It's just... he's a joy to watch on screen. He's an amazing master. And another thing I really liked in that scene was when he tells everyone not to move, he goes over to someone and he's like, "Did you just move?" And then he's like, "No." And you know he's gonna kill them. But he just walks off, kills them, without even like looking. He just continues to move on. I mean, I know a lot of bad guys do that, but part of the reason this felt new is to do with the tissue compressor. I am so glad they brought that back. It is the cheesiest, most ridiculous thing in all of Doctor Who. And I love it so much. The way when people die, they just like poof. There's literally a poof sound effect. They appear in midair and fall to the floor. It's so comedic and cheesy. And it works so well. Character options, listen to me right now. You're making a toy of the tissue compressor right now, okay? I love the tissue compressor so much. And basically the whole way through, the interactions between the Doctor and the Master are phenomenal. I think everything to do with their interactions works incredibly in this episode. I also quite like the companions being on their own, having to work together. I thought that worked really well in this episode. I thought the way they got off the plane as well, I just loved that scene as well. And I'm just gonna have to talk about it. The final 5 minutes of this episode. I said the final 5 minutes of the last episode were perfect. Chibnall is doing something magical with his final 5 minutes of his episodes. The final 5 minutes of this episode was somehow even more perfect than the final 5 minutes of last episode. Even more perfect than, I don't know, Heaven Sent. The final 5 minutes of this episode were just... wow. Absolutely incredible pieces of television. I have to say, when they name-dropped Gallifrey, the Master said, "I bring news from home," and then he said Gallifrey had been destroyed. I was just thinking, she's not going to go to Gallifrey. Just go to Gallifrey. I literally said out loud, yes, go to Gallifrey. And then she went to Gallifrey, saw it. And then, back in the TARDIS, the Master, in the TARDIS on the hologram, delivers what's possibly my favourite Master performance of all time. I don't know if he's my favourite Master of all time at the moment. If he comes back later in the series, which I have a feeling he will, he might rise to that point. But if he'd been like that the whole way through this episode, then he would 100% be my favourite Master of all time, because those final 5 minutes of him being the master were perfect in every way. The Doctor just looking at the master in despair, and then the master saying everything that we've been told is a lie. And going back to the timeless child, I thought that the timeless child might come up in this series, but then through the trailers I thought it wouldn't. But it was probably just a throwaway line. The fact they brought it back, wow. And then the master revealing that he destroyed Gallifrey and setting up the story arc for this series in such an amazing way. I have to say, I cannot get that final 5 minutes out of my head no matter how hard I try. That final 5 minutes was phenomenal and perfect in every single way. And another thing I have to mention is in this scene, when the Master says he destroyed Gallifrey, the music, the Master's theme, Sega Nakanola's really stepped up his music for this series. Everything is just a step up from last series. The writing is amazing. The cinematography somehow looks better. Sega Nakanola's music is phenomenal. Everything about that scene was perfection. And one other thing I absolutely loved was Jodie Whittaker getting angry and throwing the circle thing on the floor in frustration. That is the kind of Doctor we need more often. Up until this point, she'd been happy, all smiles, nothing can ever go wrong. And then at that point, there was just something. She became... that performance in that scene was amazing. And then when the companions ask her where she's from, and she says she's from a planet Gallifrey and she's a Time Lord, at that point, for me, she stopped being the 13th Doctor. And at that point, she'd now become just the Doctor. Not the 13th Doctor. At that point, she'd just become the Doctor for me. So, stuff that didn't land as well for me is the sort of like all time travel-y things. I guess it works. It's functional, the plot, and I usually really like solutions like that. It reminded me very much of the Big Bang. I don't know, it just felt like a bit out of place here and all too convenient. The fact that the day is basically saved by the carrot pen from Zootropolis is something I'm not too keen about as well. And Daniel Barton and the whole Kasavan plan didn't really do much. He just kind of did it and then went away. And the laser shoes. I mean that they're cool. I do like the laser shoes, just not how they were used. They just should have been used better than they were. But that's really all the complaints I have about this. Apart from the fact that, I don't know, everything just seems slightly easy to sort out. I really like the montage of the Doctor making the How to Fly a Plane Without a Cockpit video afterwards, though I thought that was just, I loved that scene. But also, the fact with all the companions alone, we should have had a bit more time with their story. I know they did get quite a good chunk of time, but I always felt like they were a side story to the Doctor and the Master, which isn't in itself a bad thing. It's just that companions didn't really do much this episode. They were on the run, but there weren't any big ramifications for that, or they didn't really feel threatening. But I have to say, I still do love the Kasavan, though. But I don't get why they just take the Master and go, seeing as Daniel Barton's still alive. But, oh wait, no, actually, it's because of the thing that allows them to be in our dimension. That does make sense now. Okay, I can deal with that. But yeah, those are my only real complaints about this episode. So, this episode, I don't think it was as good as part 1. I think it was close to being as good as part 1. There were just a few things there. I have to say, the final 5 minutes was beyond perfect, if that was even a thing. that was incredible. Those final 5 minutes, they're going to be in my head forever. And there are certainly moments in this which are better than the moments in part 1. But there's also things wrong with this one, and I didn't have many things wrong with part 1. But I did really like the use of the classic things, like contact between the Doctor and the Master, the drumming. I think that was a cool way of getting the Master's attention. And all like the classic callbacks with Logopolis and the tissue compressor make me give this episode a 9 out of 10. This would originally have been an 8, maybe an 8.5, but that final 5 minutes, this deserves a 9. 9 out of 10 for just a solid story overall, great acting, phenomenal performance from Sacha Dhawan's The Master. Lots of really cool classic callbacks, the tissue compressor, and those final 5 minutes make this an amazing episode. So this probably, Spyfall overall, still probably stands as my favourite 13th Doctor story overall. So Chibnall has really done something magical this series. And I don't know what he's done, but this just feels like Doctor Who. This feels more like Doctor Who than anything that Series 11 had. And those are basically my thoughts on this episode. I'd like to hear what you think. Leave them down in the comment section below. What would you give this episode out of 10? Do you think the Master will return? What is the Timeless Child? I might possibly do a video on that, but maybe, maybe not. Just tell me if you'd like to see that down in the comment section below. Meanwhile, I've been Cybermanalf. This has been a great review, and these are a lot of fun to make. Me just talking about Doctor Who. But from me, for now, it's goodbye.